Publishers. A lot of publishers. We only got a few of them left, Slow-Mo. We got a lot of developers, but a few publishers.
It's a lot of publishers left.
It's only
people
a few.
Don't remember.
It's a few.
People don't remember or
even
recognize that they exist until someone says, "Hey, you know Bandai Namco." Oh yeah, Bandai Namco. Yeah.
Some people probably think that's a developer and not a publisher.
Right. They're massive.
So, yeah, they are. They do a lot of anime stuff and they got a lot of fighting games underneath them when it comes to like Tekken, the Dragon Ball Z games and stuff like that. Soul Calibur, there's a lot of games underneath that umbrella.
Luca just finished their. I actually played 2 of their RPGs last year, but me and Luca just finished Tales of Arise, which was published by Bandai Namco.
Yep, I got the game right here, baby.
And Scarlet Nexus is another game that I finished last year. That they publish as well. So look, like there's a lot of publishers out there, and in regards to
who do we think? Next, who do we think is next, and who's gonna buy them?
I think next will be Square Enix, and I think Sony will acquire them, and we will see that. We will hear that announcement before the summer.
What about you, Luca? Who do you think is next, and who's gonna do it?
Square Enix with Sony.
Yeah, I think that's just at this point it's like the worst kept secret ever. It's like when are we gonna get Final Fantasy VII Remake on Xbox? Never. It's
looking like
never.
What was that term? And I know this is getting nerdy, but like in Game of Thrones when what's her name? Khaleesi, my bad. Khaleesi. I said Khaleesi. Good grief. Like is that Khaleesi? No, Khaleesi. Khaleesi asked when she was getting Khal Drogo back, and the witch said when the sun sets on the east and on the west at the same time, or something like that, which is like impossible. So like he's never coming back.
Right.
Yeah, that's Xbox getting Final Fantasy. It's just like you're never getting it. It's up to the east and the west.
So Jay Vargas says, well, what do you think Square would do with Crystal Dynamics?
I think they might sell them to Microsoft.
Just sell them off as independent.
Yeah. Well, not as independent, but they could give them their independence, and then they could be acquired by Microsoft.
But I think that's how it would probably go. They would let them go with these.
What they did to them is very like you never see a publisher throw their own developer that they own under the bus the way they did with the Avengers. Just those public comments were, I think, unprofessional. Like it was coming from the CEO of Square Enix. I thought that was very unprofessional to say that, about a company that you, not just because you own them, but they work with you, and this is a business, and you basically like threw them under the bus big time. And I don't think that would have been the case if the Avengers didn't lose them so much money and they weren't already loaned out to Microsoft in the initiative for Perfect Dark. I mean, at this point, like, what are they doing for Square Enix right now besides just giving them a little bit of money off of this loan? Like, you might as well just go ahead and just sell the developer, especially if they really are about to be acquired by Sony. Then yeah, just get rid of it.
How would Sony feel about? Wouldn't you think Sony would want that extra developer though? If they were going to buy Square Enix, wouldn't that like kind of hurt the price of the purchase?
I think for Sony, the biggest draw for Square is Final Fantasy, the IP.
Right.
They're leveraging Final Fantasy a lot right now with Final Fantasy VII Origins, with the remake, with the mobile game, The First Soldier, with and Final Fantasy 14, which is the biggest MMO in the world right now. Like that, I think that's the biggest draw for them. The Western studios, Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, I mean, they're okay. I think, like, what have you done for me lately kind of thing. Everyone has kind of looked at Crystal Dynamics, has always looked at them as the better studio, comparing them with Eidos Montreal, but here we are. Sony does Marvel games. The only other publisher that does Marvel games is Square Enix. The last Marvel game that Crystal Dynamics did stunk, and the last Marvel game that Eidos Montreal did great. Like, I can see Sony like, yeah, we'll keep Eidos because they can give us a Guardians 2. We can make it a whole like video game universe for Marvel. And now we have the publisher that's making Marvel games with us. And like, do you really want to follow up to the Avengers?
Yeah.
Or would you rather just reboot that with Eidos Montreal doing it? And it being what it should have been from the very start, just a single player, narrative driven, story driven game, and not like this looter shooter hybrid thing that they tried to create that just didn't work out at all.
I just don't see why Xbox. I mean, I get the if you buy Crystal Dynamics as an Xbox, you're just buying the talent at that point. You're not getting the IP or anything, because especially if Sony is going to come through and purchase Square Enix, they're going to want all the IP. You know why they're not going to want to give all that up. And it's like for Xbox,
yeah, about that. So Crystal Dynamics like revive the Tomb Raider IP. They'll keep that IP, but guess who else who's made Tomb Raider? Eidos Montreal.
Eidos Montreal.
So like they made the last one, even though that was the worst one. But like
Shadow.
They made the last one Shadow. So it's like, yeah, I just don't see why Crystal Dynamics would be kept around. And I think almost kind of feel like, actually, I don't. Maybe they would keep them. I don't know, because like if you're going to sell them, trashing a developer before you sell them does not help you with the value.
Right, that's my whole thing. The value,
yeah. Like if I privately feel like they're terrible, but I want to sell them, I'm not going to say that to the world. I'll be like, man, Crystal Dynamics is amazing. I don't care what people said about Marvel's Avengers. I love them. They're great. And then, when after they're sold, you're like, thank God they're out of here. But like, I think that is, that kind of doesn't make sense that they would treat them that way or say that, oh, that's stuff publicly, but it is what it is.